Wyatt-Yerka. He's for 16A. He is the endorsed candidate from the DFL, and he's kind enough to join us today to talk about his campaign. Hey, Tom.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on, and happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, sir. It's I can't believe a woman would want to be near me that long, but still, it's like I said. Congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I started off by saying I've talked to a lot of people in southwestern Minnesota. There definitely feels like there's a vibe down in that part of the state where the Democrats really feel as if, you know what, this might be a year to pick up a few of these seats.
Definitely. We're seeing energy that we haven't seen in a couple decades around here, especially our college population, as well as some new folks coming out of the woodwork and getting involved with their local parties. It's been really great to see.
So who exactly is Tom Wyatt-Yerka?
Yeah, well, it's a great question to start off on. Until recently, I was a student. I just graduated from the University of Minnesota in December, and I graduated from Marshall High School in 2014. I'm a Marshall native. My family moved here 16 years ago. My parents are both from L.A., so it's a little bit of a shock to them, but we fell in love with the community. We came here in search of a better life for my family, and we found it with the great schools, the wonderful people, and we found it as small business owners in downtown Marshall, where we owned a coffee house for 10 and a half years. And I couldn't really imagine running or starting my life off anyplace else. I decided to run because in 2016 I was the campaign manager for the previous candidate to run for the DFL candidate, and although we lost, I thought we brought up a lot of good points. And after returning home from college, I felt that a lot of the things that had made our community great, the wonderful schools, the investment in our public institutions and public education, were no longer there, and our community was suffering because of it. And I want this place to be around for a long time for everyone. And so that's why I decided to jump in the race.
A story we've heard multiple times is basically that the promises made by the Republicans that have been representing these districts, they've not come to fruition, and they're not there they're just not doing what they said they were going to. We should mention 16A. You mentioned Marshall, kind of runs up to Montevideo, correct?
Just south of Montevideo, actually.
All right.
We go up to Madison and Dawson, and then cuts off right after Lac Pearl County.
Let's talk a little. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say also to the west, we're out to Minneota and Canby out to the south. Quite a big district.
You talk about your parents. They came from L.A. They went and opened a coffee house in Marshall, which is a great story in itself. Talk about rural economic development a little bit here, because, I mean, that I think gives you, from your personal experience, a real insight into, some of the things that make development in rural communities difficult, some things that make it easy. What do you want to bring to the table in 16A as far as rural economic development?
Well, definitely talking to many employers around the district, one of the most difficult things that they face is workforce attraction, retention, and training. When we're looking at attracting businesses today, it's not just having to factor in how much is it going to cost me for land, how much is it going to cost me to do business in this area, but if I do decide to open up operations in a place like Marshall or Lind or Canby, am I going to be able to staff up? Am I going to be able to grow? And that's really an issue that we've seen across most of greater Minnesota, is the difficulty to attract skilled labor. Speaking from the perspective of just having graduated college and moving back home, it's a kind of a difficult decision. And a lot of my friends, said, why are you moving back to a small town? And I did it because I love the community. And it's a little bit difficult when you're looking at things like broadband internet access. Plenty of people my age have told me, I'd love to take over the family farm. I'd love to move back onto it, but I need a second income. I need health care, and I need to be able to commute over the internet. I need to be able to have high-speed broadband access, and they're not able to do that, especially in rural areas and on farms. So I think there are a number of challenges with broadband and workforce development and attraction being two of the highest.
It's interesting you bring up broadband, and when we've talked to the Southwest Metro, this is a common problem. And it is funny. Republicans only talk about broadband when it's two times. One, when they're telling Democrats they're not going to do it in outstate Minnesota, when they're talking about making these bills. And then after, the bonding bill fails, acting as if, we were about to give broadband to everyone when they weren't. The reality is the Republicans have the same party that campaigned on this for like 3 different elections that they were going to bring it out there. They have had the opportunity to do so, and they have just chosen not to because they'd rather give wealthy people tax cuts as opposed to help out their constituents in southwestern Minnesota. This is a priority. I mean, as you just touched on, it's rural economic development, but education, healthcare, quality of life, these are things that we need to have everywhere in Minnesota.
Exactly, and I think it contributes to the larger feeling of folks in rural communities that we're left behind. That we're left behind by technology, by our government, and it's frustrating. And a lot of that frustration and energy was expressed in the last election. But people are smart. They don't have that much of a tolerance for these politicians coming in and feeding them lies anymore. So I'm hopeful for the future here.
Once again, our Democrat of the day today is Tom Wyatt-Yerka. He's running in 16A, and he's kind enough to join us today. Tom, let's talk a little bit about education. You made me aware of an interesting problem here. The Republicans have screamed about how they have to nullify the teachers union in the state because they can't find teachers that want to go, work out in rural Minnesota. You talk about Lind, which is in your district here, and apparently the teachers there are the lowest paid teachers in the state. And not only that, is this true? They get paid less than they get paid in Mississippi?
Yes, that is true. In fact, the highest pay for teachers in the Lind School District is lower than the lowest pay for teachers in Mississippi.
I can say this for a fact. My parents lived in Mississippi for a little bit in Greenwood. That's insane because the state of Mississippi has turned its back completely on the public education system. So to find out that there's a school district in Minnesota that's treating the teachers with such disrespect with their pay is unbelievable. Well, how did this happen in Lind? Do you know?
Well, it's really a funding crisis for these smaller communities. To get a little bit technical, Lind's entered into an agreement a number of years ago with a couple of other school districts in southwest Minnesota to form an education cooperative, Southwest Minnesota Education Cooperative. And those school districts have had the opportunity to remain in the agreement, to leave that agreement, and recently one of the largest districts in that agreement left, throwing the other schools for a loop. Now they've had to come up with nearly 150% increase in their contribution to that cooperative, while at the same time, the superintendent is about to receive a 15% pay raise to nearly over $130,000 a year. So it seems like to me, from speaking with many parents of students there, Lind residents, that that's one of the major issues is administrative costs, and that the school board and the people elected to make decisions regarding the budget haven't been listening to parents. And they haven't been listening to the teachers. In addition, those teachers haven't had a contract in over a year, or nearly a year. This June, it'll be a year. And they've come into work every single day, done their job, and they've done it well. And they've done it all well without dragging the students into it. And so we're really punishing the wrong people for this budget shortfall here. The other issue would be what happened when we're in the Palenti years, which I hope we don't go back to, was the changing the funding model of education from income-based to property tax-based. And even people who are saying they have higher incomes are saying it's ridiculous to tax it on property. I make more than my neighbor who's a farmer, and they're paying more than I am to send their kids to school when I can afford it. And so people want to change back to the income-based model for funding education.
Well, and that was Palenti. I mean, every idea he had was basically shoveling money into wealthy people's pockets. But it seems like what you described in Lind, there really is a twofold problem. First of all, clearly there's a local issue here where, there's in something that you've seen in other parts of the state, other parts of the country as well, we're going to punish the teachers because, especially in conservative areas, because we perceive them to be some kind of liberal outpost, and so henceforth we're not going to give them the pay, the supplies, the support that the school districts need. But yet then the same school districts ask, why can't we hire any teachers? I don't know. When was the last time you heard any Republican praise a teacher? I can't remember the last time that happened. The other issue, though, is a state issue, and this is why I think we need to get you from 16A, because this is something I completely agree with. we have got a real big problem statewide in regards to how we fund our schools, especially outstate schools. And if we do not basically take the mandates that are forced upon these school districts for funding and figure out a way for equity on a statewide level to where a district like Lind is not, crippled by, trying to keep up with that we are going to end up having a far larger problem and a far larger gap in quality of education statewide.
Mm-hmm. And this feeds directly back into what we were talking about earlier, economic development for our entire region. If you're making the decision to start your family in Minnesota, are you going to choose a place where you can access affordable public education that's quality and a quality building with teachers that'll be there year to year? Or are you going to choose a community where the very existence of your school is in question? I think the choice is obvious to Minnesotans, and that's why we're losing out in our population here in Southwest Minnesota.
I hope you don't mind me asking this because I can get your thoughts on this because I was talking to someone down in Iowa about this because obviously that's another big problem they have in Iowa. The kids turn 18 years old, they walk away and they never return to the hometown. And that's a real big problem. A lot of towns are dying across Iowa. And they came out and they said exactly what you said. Well, and especially in this day and age when the internet is so big and you can game and Netflix and all these things, the quality of life, the little extras that, you can have in these small towns that basically, are universal. The quality of education, the quality of healthcare, the business opportunities. You are a bit of an anomaly in the fact that you graduate college and you go back to the small town. But what you've done is you seem to have figured that out. You, independently of the study I read out of Iowa, that if we can bring this quality of life, just a simple thing with broadband, then the exodus of 18-year-olds out of these small towns is going to curb back dramatically. Would you agree with that?
I definitely would, because I think some of the narrative has been a little one-sided in that young people aren't being asked these same questions. They're not moving away from their small towns because they absolutely don't want to live there anymore. It pains them to move away because there are things that they love about their community and that they'll miss, but they're moving because of an economic decision.
And it is. I mean, I've worked in small town Iowa. I've spent a lot of time in rural Minnesota. There are these towns. If they don't have the jobs there, it's a hard sell to get someone to move back there if there's not jobs and a quality of life back there for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you are fantastic. And how old are you? If you don't mind me asking, as a 49-year-old man who feels very, very incompetent right now, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, you just pantsed me. Tom Wyatt-Yerka is for 16A. This is the kind of new leadership we need in this state. Absolutely. This is the kind of representative we need in St. Paul. And here comes my plea. People, I understand it is important for you to support your local Democrat. Please do. Help them get elected. But this summer, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick 6 Democrats around the state. Actually, I said 5. I said because I was looking at 16. 5 Democrats. 5 Democrats across the state who are currently running in districts held by Republicans, like Tom Wyatt-Yerka in 16A. I want you to find some way you can help them out, whether that's a donation, whether that's going out and visiting beautiful 16A, doing some door knocking, making some phone calls. If you can help Tom Wyatt-Yerka for state rep in 16A, that would be great. What is the website there, Tom?
It's Wyatt-Yerka, so Wyatt-Yerka, and the number 4, SWMN.com. So that's Wyatt-Yerka, the number 4, SWMN.com.
Wyatt, W-Y-A-T-T, Yerka, Y-E-R-K-A, the number 4, SWMN.com. I'll link to that on the Twitter, on the Facebook a little bit later on, and we'll also make sure we put the interview up there for everyone. Tom, congratulations on running. By God, I want to see you win because I think you clearly are someone we need to get into St. Paul for sure.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Matt.
Tom Wyatt-Yerka is Democrat of the Day for 16A. Kind enough to join us today.